Hello, Portions. This is your girl Merci, and you're watching Merci Post Stitches. So, in today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you a very detailed, step-by-step video on how to make a round, wide leg palazzo pants. So, this wide leg palazzo trouser is very wide on the down part and a bit fitted on the hip and on the skirt part. Okay, so that is what you're going to be learning today. So basically we are going to be learning how to draft, cut and stitch down a wide leg palazzo pant. And if this is what you love to learn, please stay tuned to the end of this tutorial because it's a full tutorial. The drafting, the cutting, the stitching, everything is on in this one video. So I have my paper here on the table and I am going to be drafting first on the paper. So you can actually make this palazzo pants without paper, but the difference is that when you draft on paper, it helps you to be able to determine how wide you want it to be at the down part, and you're also going to determine how round is going to be. Okay, you're going to give it the exact shape you want it to be if you draft on paper, but if you draft directly on your fabric you may not really have it. Yeah, like if you draft directly on your fabric you may not really be able to control how well flared or rounded or wide is going to be at the down part. Okay, so i I am marking my lines as you see here right now. So the starting point of the paper is going to be my waist part. So I went on to rule and mark my hip line, my crotch line and my knee line, and I'm labeling the lines right away. So I have my waist, my hip, my crotch, my knee, and the length of the paper is going to be my length for now. The pant length is going to be longer than the paper, but I'll be making do with what I have as the length of my on the length of my paper. So when I'm transferring to my main fabric, I am going to add up the remaining inches to make up the length. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to divide the biggest parts of my measurement, that is from my waist to my ankle. The biggest part, of course, it is the hip measurement, right? So I'm going to divide my hip measurement into 4. Now after dividing it into 4, whatever number I get, I'm going to add extra 1 inch to that number, and that is what I'm going to be ruling on the waistline, on the hip line and on the crotch line, right? So after doing that, I proceeded to connect into a straight line. So after connecting into a straight line, now the next thing I'm going to do is to extend my crotch depth. Okay, my to mark my crotch extension. Okay, so my client is a bit big on the hip. Okay, so I am going to be using 2.75 for my crotch extension. So she's on 45, hip 45. So if yours is hip 42 or 40, you can use 2 or 2.5. And to be on the safer side, you can just go ahead and use 2.5 for your extension. Okay, so I proceeded to extend and also mark 1.5 inch where there is where all the lines meet, the point where all the lines meet. I extended by 1.5 inches, that is here, and connected the crotch. Okay, so this point here is where I measured 1.5 inches. Okay, before I now connected to the 2.75 hip extension, I mean crotch extension, sorry. Okay, so now I measured from that extension to what I have on the starting point of the paper, and the figure I have there is what I'm going to rule into a straight line all the way to the length of my paper, and that is exactly what I'm doing right now. So I was not doing that, and I ruled the line into a straight line, as you can see. Sorry, please pardon me, my camera wasn't even recording that part and I didn't even observe. So after I did that, I divided the line into two and get the straight line. That is the half, that is the line I marked on the straight point. Then I also measured from the crotch line to mark my dart, which is my nipple to nipple divided by 2. I measured it and mark it, and the length of the dart is 3 inches. Honestly, I didn't know that part was not recorded. So I came in from the line by 1.5 inches on the knee line, as you can see here. So I came in by 1.5 inches, but because it's a wide leg palazzo, I shortened it to just 1 inch and I connected like this to the crotch extension. Okay, and I did the same thing on the side part of, that is the hip part of the extension. I measured 1 inch, and I'm going to extend it all the way down to the length, that is the down part. Okay, honestly, I'm so sorry that that part didn't record. Okay, but based on what I'm explaining, I believe you'll be able to understand, as in be able to get it right. So like I said, from that straight crotch line that I mark, I measure from there my nipple to nipple divided by 2. So the nipple to nipple measurement I'm working with is 8. So 8 divided by 2 gives you 4. That's what I marked from that crotch extension line. Then I also measured down 3.5 inches. That becomes the length. So in order to avoid too much excess fabric here, I measured down 3.5 inches and I came in by half of an inch. So that is what I am reconnecting. So sometimes when you don't do this, you notice that a lot of excess fabric around here. Okay, especially it's always the case with palazzo pants, palazzo trousers. So but doing this will help eliminate all those excesses and there will not be issue around there. So I proceeded to cut out, and this is what I have. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to slit through the center line that I marked. Okay, I'm going to slit the this center line up to the hip line. So this is what I did, and as you can see, so I'm going to get my fabric, and here I have it, and I went on to place the paper on my main fabric that I'm working with. Okay, so I achieved this using three yards of crepe fabric. Okay, 3 yards of crepe fabric, that is what I used to achieve this. So now what I did is to extend the leg, and then I open up the leg. So what we are doing here is to spread the down part to be able to get our desired wideness. Okay, so what I'm doing here is to be securing with my pin. I'm trying to secure all the parts with my pin so that it stays in place, as you can see. So you are going to determine how wide you want it to be by measuring, that is spreading with 11 inches, 12 or 13. So my case, I spread with 11.5. That is what I use for my spread here. So to make it wider, you can go on and spread like 15 inches. Okay, so what I did was that I added the remaining inches that I needed for my pant length. Okay, that is what I did. I first of all traced this part to the both leg of the paper, and I added about 6 inches to make up the length, and also 1 inch for my hemming allowance. So I am cutting now. So like I said, if you want your spread to be wider than this on the down, you can use 15 inches. As long as you have enough fabric, you can make it as wide as you want it to be. And note that if you want it fitted around the hip and the waist, then this spread should not go beyond the hip. Do you understand? So if you note, my own is I slit through the paper just on the hip side. I stopped around the hip side. This is because I don't want the hip side to be too big. I want the fitting to be around the waist side and the hip side while the down is very big. So that is what I did here, and I proceeded to cut out. So remember, this is just the front part, and after cutting this front part, it will be time for us to cut out the back part as well. So this is what I have, and um I'm going to fold it and keep, and I'm going to get another fabric for the back part. Okay, so I'll do that and you see what we'll have. So I went on to fold my fabric into two again, and I place the front part on it. So I place it ensuring that I have excess fabric on the upper part and on the side as well. So I am extending this crotch line into the new fabric I just folded. Sorry, my chalk, I don't know, it seems it's not that visible, but I believe you can see what I am doing. So I extended with that same 2.75, that is 2.25 of an inch on the crotch line for the back, and I came in here by 1 inch. Starting from the starting line, I went in by 1 inch like this, as you can see. So the next thing I'm going to do is on this upper part of the crotch, I'm going to go up by 1.5 inches, and I will mark. So I'm going to go on to connect from this point to this 1 inch that I mark here, and I'm just using my free hand to connect it like this. So I also use 2 inches here for my dart. I am marking 2 inches. Okay, I'm marking 2 inches for the back crotch. Okay, remember the back crotch is not as deep as the front crotch, it's a bit shallow. So I am using 2 inches, and I just proceeded to connect it to the crotch extension for the back. That is what I'm doing. So I observed this pen is not that visible, so don't worry. Before I cut out, I am going to use another the chalk, sorry, not pen. I am going to try and look for another chalk and um trace the line again, so that it can be very visible for us to understand what I'm doing. So I connected towards the knee line, and that was where the allowance ended. I didn't add any allowance from the knee line down, because remember the down part is already very wide, so it doesn't need any allowance. So here I use a white chalk to trace the lines so that it can be very visible, and you can see where the allowance ended. I didn't take it beyond the knee line. So this is what we have for the back part, and it's time for me to cut out. So I was done cutting out, and this is what I have. So I will trace that line into the back part, and I'm just going to place a notch around there. So it's time to cut out our pocket. So I brought back the front part, the two of the front part, and this is what I have here. So I'm going to show you how to cut pocket for a trouser. In case if you don't know how to cut a pocket prior to now, this is your opportunity to learn how to do that. So on this upper part, you can go in 2 inches or 2.5 inches. So mine, I choose to go in 2.5 inches, and I'm going to come down 7 inches, and I'm just going to use my free hand to connect to the upper part like this, just like this. That is all you need, just like this. So I went on to connect it, as you can see, and I'm just going to cut out. So remember, you're making this connection around the hip line, the hip side, that is the side, not the crotch side, and also on the front fabric. Take note of that. You are not doing this on the back fabric, the front part of the fabric. And this is another fabric that I brought, and the length of the fabric is about 10 inches, and the wideness is about 8.5 to 9 inches. So I'm going to open it up like this, right side facing right side. That is how I'm going to be placing it. And I'm just going to pick one part. I'm just going to choose one part. Since both parts are straight, I'll choose one part, and I'm going to place the pockets to it like this, ensuring that I have the same shape and that is properly placed on it. And I'm just going to trace it out and cut out. So after doing this, I am going to open it up and place each pocket on each side of the pants, the front trouser, and I am going to be placing it right side facing right side. That is one pocket facing the right side of the pocket, facing the right side of the trouser, and on the other side I'll do the same, right side facing right side, and I'll pin it down. After pinning it down, I'll take it to my machine and sew it exactly like this and this. So I will take it to my machine, I will show it, I will sew it. Okay, and I'm just going to be explaining to you what we are doing here. So here I am on my machine, and I I went on to join this part like I mentioned. So I joined this part, that part exactly that I have that curve, and I notched it. So I am doing the same thing to the second one as well. Okay, so after notching, you're going to sew top stitch on the pocket side. So you are top stitching on the pocket fabric, not on your main trouser fabric. That is what I'm doing here. I'm top stitching on my pocket fabric. Okay, and after top stitching on my pocket fabric, I am going to show you the next thing to do. So here is the main fabric. I'm going to sew on top of it just like a quarter of an inch. I'll just run a stitch like a quarter of an inch stitch on top of it to secure it. So I'm doing this on the main trouser fabric, not on the lining piece. The lining piece, as you can see, is under, why I'm doing it on the fabric on top, which is the main fabric, the trouser fabric. Right, so you can see it. So at this point, it's important you go and give it a very good press. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to measure 2.5 inches, and I'll place it on top of it like this. So note that I measured this 2.5 inch on the other side of the pocket, that other part that is still straight. That's why I measured it and I placed it like this. Okay, so that is what I did. Then I'm going to stitch on the down part of the pocket. I'm sewing this stitch on the right side, just so it to close that down part where if you put something it doesn't fall out. So I made just a straight stitch to it, and I'm going to turn it inside out like this. So this is what we have, as you can see. Okay, so this is the down part I'm talking about. When you sew it on the right side, you turn it out on the wrong side. Can you see it? Okay, can you see what we have now? So I'll just secure all the parts with my pins. As you can see, I'll repeat the same process. So I went on to sew it. Okay, sorry, someone is interrupting me. I'm very sorry. So I went on to sew my dart, and that is what you see me doing here. I'll sew my dart. Okay, I'm going to mark the 3.5 inches dart length and half an inch dart width. So I repeated it on both sides, and I joined the crotch line of both fronts. Okay, so I joined the crotch line of both fronts, and this is the pocket side. This is what we have. Okay, this is the crotch line. I'm going to put iron it, and this is my dart that I sew on both sides. Okay, so I repeated the same process on the back part. I went on to join my back part, the crotch line of my back part, and I also sew my dart to it. So I sew my dart the same length, 3.5 inches down and half of an inch dart allowance. Okay, that is what I did. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to place the front and the back right side facing right side. Trust me, cutting and sewing a patch trouser is not difficult at all. So I'm going to join the side with just half and quarter of an inch. Okay, that is what I'm going to be using to join the side. That is what I am marking here, and I'll just sew it all the way down, because remember, we don't need much um on the, especially on the down part. I join when I reach the down part, I join with just half of an inch. Like, I continue to stitch with half of an inch, because remember, it's not a fitted pant, so I'm not working with the measurement around the downside. So I did that on both sides, and I also stitched the crotch line. That is the down part of the crotch line. Remember, I already joined the crotch line with half of an inch. The down part that goes down to the ankle on the crotch line, I went on to stitch it down. Okay, so at this point our pant trouser is 90% ready, and I went on to measure what I have on the hip. I'm going to use the measurement I have to cut out my band, okay, that we're going to fix. So here is my band, and I even joined the band because it was not long enough. So the band is 5 inches wide, and the length is as much as can accommodate what I have on the waist, plus some allowance, joining allowance. Okay, so that was the reason why I had to join it, so that I can have as much as the length I needed. So what I'm going to do here is to go and fold and iron one side, half of an inch on one side here. That's what I'm going to do. I'll iron down half of an inch on one side, and I'll bring it back for us to see what we have. So that is what I went on to do. I went on to iron half of an inch just on one side, all the way from beginning to the end, and it's time to attach it to our main fabric. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to locate the part where I have the joining on my band, and I'm going to match up that joining with the one of the crotch line, especially the back crotch line. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. I'm going to be placing it right side of the band, touching the wrong side of my main pant trouser. That is how I'm placing this band. Right side of the band is touching the wrong side of the pant trouser. So I am sewing on the right side of the pant trouser. So I'm going to sew round, and I'm going to show you what we have. So after sewing, I'm going to place it on top of it and stitch down, as if I folded it into two. Fold the half that we ironed into the place where we sew, and top stitch. And on the front crotch, I left about 1 inch opening. So I have my band here, my elastic band, and it's time to cut out my band for the waist. So this is how you calculate what to cut out. You are going to subtract 6 inches from what you have on your waist. So your round waist measurement is, so my round waist measurement is about 39. Yes, so I subtracted 6 inches, and I was left with 33, and the 33 is the length of my band. That is what I used to cut out, the length of my band. So I'm going to use my safety pin to pass it through all the way around and come out again. So when I bring it out, I'm going to stitch it down and you'll see what we have. Okay, so as you can see, I've passed through it and both of them has come out on both one side. So I'm going to place it like this and I'm going to run a stitch on it like 2 times or 3 times. So if you have watched this tutorial up to this point, please give it a thumbs up, like this video. Just by me liking this video or even commenting can make this video to go around to more people. Okay, that is the secret. You can help to make this video to go around to more people and for more people to learn how to cut this simple pant trouser. Okay, wide leg pant trouser. Okay, so this is a rich tutorial because it shows the drafting, the sewing, and the drafting, the cutting, and the sewing. So it will be very helpful to many people out there, and that is the reason why you need to give it a thumbs up. I'll drop a comment. If you have any question, you can do that, and don't forget to subscribe if you have not done so. It is very important because it will surely help this channel to keep growing. So your engagement is very paramount to this channel. Remember, support is vice versa, give and take. Okay, so don't just be a receiver of support alone, be a giver of support as well. Thank you.